The world is changing fast. New technologies are impacting how we think about products, services, and the way we live our lives. Nowhere is this trend more present than in financial services, where new business models and customer expectations are changing our conceptions about banking, finance, and the very nature of money. Welcome to Rebank, a visionary podcast about banking, fintech, and the future. The future of banking is here.
Hello and welcome to Rebank. I'm your host, Will Beeson. Today we're thrilled to be joined by Jamie Campbell and Nina Mohanty of Bud, one of the most compelling fintech apps around. Despite its startup status, Bud has hit some major milestones and is working on a project with HSBC and First Direct that will see them integrated directly into the incumbents' apps in what could be a watershed moment for fintech. In addition to their super cool business, they're also just great people. Give them a shout at JC the Original and at Nina Mohanty and invite them to your next party. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please welcome Jamie Campbell and Nina Mohanty. Jamie and Nina, welcome to Rebank.
Hello, thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us here.
Give it closer to the mic.
Am I close enough now?
Yeah.
We're gonna be sharing this mic, so we need to. This is very close.
We're up close and personal.
Wow, this is very close.
What did they say? A company that plays together stays together?
Yeah.
Please do not print that.
Oh, good.
Right. So tell us about Bud.
Sure. Yeah, Bud is a financial services marketplace. We partner with banks to distribute, financial products to customers in a brand new way. We link transactional data and behavioral data from account aggregation, like current account and credit card aggregation, to predict what financial services people may need, and then we power a marketplace to serve those needs.
Simple.
But pretty, it's pretty simple on the face of it, but there's some very difficult science that kind of goes on in the background.
Yeah. No, for sure, and it's fascinating. Personally, I find this really fascinating. I come from an investments background originally, and did a lot of work, especially early on, around stuff like traditional portfolio management, how people can optimize their financial situations, and obviously that's not specific to their investment accounts. It's everything from how often they're saving, how regularly, where they're allocating those savings, when they should fund with income versus credit, what a mortgage is, how it works, when you should have it, when it does make sense, when it doesn't, real estate as a place to live versus an investment, liquidity premium and all the rest. And it seems to me in this age of moving from trying to design products and services from the standpoint of banks and financial services companies that are relevant for everyone, i.e. one product that millions of people can buy and use, to a world in which through technology you can basically roll out specific products and services for specific people based on their own specific needs, even contextually.
Yeah.
We should be able to do the same thing for personal finances, helping people succeed, grow, retire happy, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when you break it down, and it was, I was kind of nodding along when you were talking there about all the kind of different whether it was liquidity or funding with credit, all of this kind of stuff. And I think fundamentally, people, normal people don't care about the products.
Oh, absolutely.
What they care about is the thing that they're trying to achieve, and kind of up until kind of now, I guess, now that we're kind of live in the market, we've seen that banks have traditionally not kind of given services over to customers in this way, where it's like, what are you trying to achieve and what's the best way to get you there? What they've done is, okay, well, we have these products and we want to sell you these products. And so kind of with Bud and what we're exploring with the data capabilities and the marketplace, which Nino can talk more about the marketplace, but what we're trying to do with those two pieces is understand the journeys that these people are on and, supply the right product at the right time to help them kind of build up to that experience. So whether it's buying a home, the mortgage is just one part of that journey on a customer side, right? But then there's, I need to budget with my partner or budget on my own. I need to be credit worthy. I need to be viewed as a good person to lend to. Those are services in and of themselves. And Bud's Marketplace powers, the introduction of those kind of services to help you get to that mortgage piece. But then after that, you're in your home. Am I on the right utility tariff? Can I switch my utilities? Can I do that within the app? Or can I get home insurance? Can I get contents insurance? All of these things are all built around the same journey in a customer's mind. And, they're not traditionally all bank products, but they are all products which help people achieve things with their money. And and money helps people kind of have a much seamless life. And I think that's what we're trying to evolve the system into, is one which serves people to help them achieve their goals with the right products.
The way I like to think of it is, in the past, it was financial services as one broad brush, and they're using like a blue for everyone. Just you get blue, and this is what you get, and one size fits all. And then we saw kind of a shift. So we're going to break people up by demographic, so baby boomers or millennials or whatever. And so they're like, we're going to introduce different colors now. So now you get red as well, and maybe a yellow. But I think what we are seeing now is that it's more important to actually figure out the customer and figure out, what are you even trying to make in the first place? Like, are you even painting, or are you building a sculpture, or are you trying to use crayons or pastels? And so when we figure out what it is they want to create, then we're better able to say, here, these are the actual tools that you can use to create that painting or that sculpture or whatever. It's a very artistic way to think about.
You must be feeling very artistic.
I'm feeling very artistic in this beautiful, because the sun is out today in London, so I'm feeling very inspired. It's not a good way to put it, though.
But yeah, I think it comes down to the personal service. The unbundling of banks, which I guess was the tagline a few years ago for Fintech, what it demonstrated was actually there is room within all of these verticals to innovate and to get products very, very specific. So whether it's partners that we partner with, like bank accounts specifically for freelancers, that's a very, very specific product, but they have very specific needs. And you know what? There is a right to have a product in that category. Would a bank have thought about it before? Probably not. They don't, they wouldn't have thought to designate their time and attention for what to them is a small part of the market to serve them better. But it is good that there are companies out there doing it equally in payments and invoice financing and, all of these, I guess, niche approaches to a specific financial service vertical. They all have their place and they all have their customer. And I think to provide a service such as we do, which connects the right person with that right product, which ladders up into an objective of a customer, I think that is where the value has currently been missing up until this point. And I think what we're going to see going forward is a much more tailored financial services industry, which kind of brings together, more than just financial services, non-financial services as well, and creates a kind of a much more consumer-centered way of operating.
Yeah. Okay, so my team and I are building a bank, and
good luck.
I was gonna say, so prior to this, I thought that was like really complicated. But what you're describing sounds amazing, and it sounds ridiculously complex. So basically, it's moving from a world in which thousands of banks offer thousands of products to all customers into one in which one platform or handful of platforms offer all of banks' products to all customers, and they do it in a very targeted way. And there's an overlay of what's the best thing for you, the individual. So hugely visionary, love it, and I think I'm with you. That's where the future lies. So how do you build that? I mean, that must be like you start somewhere. Obviously, you iterate.
Get the right people in the room.
Yeah.
First.
So what does your journey look like?
The journey has been. Bud has had a very kind of not a meandering journey, but we've definitely gone on a voyage of discovery. We knew when we set up the two co-founders, Ed and George. We knew when we set up that the ambition that we had which was use any financial service in one place, was going to be something that was going to be increasingly powerful as innovation increased in the area. Because as innovation and new products increase, more complexity for customers, suddenly it's going to be a bit of a handful just managing your finances if you wanted to take full advantage of these innovations. So we initially started with a direct-to-customer proposition, where we would, require customers to go over and into the app store or the, whatever, and download the app or go on the website, and this would be the new place where you went and did your finances. But really, when we were kind of doing that, we were testing the model to see if actually people wanted it, because ultimately we knew that this would be a very powerful model for banks. And as it turned out, when we launched in November last year, a kind of an alpha product. And tested the marketplace in January with the FCA sandbox. That was the first cohort of the sandbox. Kind of midway through that process, we were confident that the model was working. We'd seen very good results, and we started talking pretty passionately to banks around this model, around the strategy, around how we could help turn a bank into not just a vendor of products, but a place where people could go and achieve things and get things done. Really reposition the relationship of a bank in people's lives to be one of assistance and really helpful. So I guess in May time of this year, we closed off direct signups to our app and website, and we started working on the partnership. So a few months ago, I think it is a few months ago now, we announced our official partnership with HSBC and First Direct.
Feels like months ago.
It does feel like a long time, but I actually think it's
like a month
I think it's only a month, but man, that is crazy. But this is one of the first kind of big mainstream banks in the world, really, to kind of come out and say this is actually the model that's going to work in the future. And credit where credit's due. I think I tweeted this the other day. They have, for a very big bank, they have moved very, very quickly on this, and the team is incredible to work with, and they're kind of like, they rival a startup for the ambitions that they have, which I think is great. But ultimately, we see this working across many geographies, across many jurisdictions, appealing to many different customers. And the way, I guess, kind of going back to the, how do we do it? It is getting the right people with the right ambition for what we're planning. It is ambitious. You need people who, on the vendor side, so on the marketplace side, we have, how many is it now, Nina? How many partners?
65 and growing, plus, well, maybe additional 30 on top of that.
Yeah. So
in a different instance, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you need people, in the team on that side who can manage all of those relationships, and to getting 70 finance companies to nod along when you're talking to them about their strategy. It's hard work. Going and acquiring those partnerships is hard work, and that's Nina and Alan in the team kind of focus on that. Getting the distribution partners on the other side of the model, the banks. That's, again, those sales cycles are long, and you kind of need banks which are ambitious to deliver it.
I think we're incredibly, well, part of it is luck, part of it is actual.
It's all skill.
It's skill, and like that little extra something. Our secret sauce is that the people that are working at Bud, like everyone is
with Bud.
Sorry.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier.
Wait, I said working at. Does that not?
That still counts.
Yeah, working with Bud. Everyone is there for a reason, and they're bringing something fantastic. Like, Jamie. I struggled before I joined Bud to understand what it is that Jamie does exactly.
Easy.
But no, because I was like, this guy is awesome, and he's like at these conferences, and then I work with him now. I'm like, he is a magician. He's amazing. Obviously, Ed and George are fantastic, but even not even Pat, but sorry, Pat. I mean, Pat, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit, but he's been working hand in hand with the FCA from the very beginning, and not shying away from that and trying to hide under a rock and say, please don't notice us over here, but rather we're going to work with you and try to provide the best thing that we can. So everyone at Bud, our designers, our developers,
data people,
oh my gosh, our data scientists,
so impressive.
They make me feel so silly.
Yeah, but I think the business model is completely focused around collaboration, and that is just everywhere and everyone you speak to in the company. They want to work with other people. They want to work with new companies. It's a very open and inviting environment to work in, and I think that breeds just a very exciting outlook for the company.
Yeah. All right. So it's a B2B marketplace platform, basically.
Yeah.
And so the initial partnership with HSBC / First Direct is around what, providing them with a white label marketplace?
So we're giving them the experience that we've been talking about, that marketplace of financial and some non-financial services as well, to create an app and a site which is going to be increasingly more valuable to customers than what's currently on the market.
I wouldn't call it white labeling, though. I think that what we are doing is really working hand in hand.
Yeah.
Not saying like, here's this package and like DIY, set it up. It's like we're working with them, walking through, explaining the benefits of each partner, and have you considered maybe this or that, and curating is probably a better word.
Curating is a great word to describe it. It's like I said before, it's incredibly collaborative. And when you look at the capabilities of the platform, I mean, heck, we probably cover every corner of the financial service world in terms of capabilities by leveraging third parties. So the capabilities are quite vast. And really it's a case of, okay, what part of those capabilities do you really want to kind of take advantage of and own for your customers? And then kind of delivering really, really strongly against those principles. And I think that's kind of how we are going to be working with more banks, because this isn't just for one bank. It's it can be many banks.
Yeah. Okay. So what will the experience be like for the HSBC customer once this is live? They'll via their HSBC app
update your app.
Yeah.
And
that's
then,
the dream.
And
that
then
is the,
in
the
that
dream.
app,
the dream kind of result for us. And this was, and again, you don't want to try and change people's habits. What you want it to do really, really kind of, I guess, seamlessly is you just want it to flow into their daily life. One day they wake up, oh, I'll update my app, and hell, look at all these amazing things I can do now. I can log into all my other bank accounts here. I can.
Okay, so they'll go, and basically there'll be kind of an option to link a bank account, and that would via like an OAuth sort of.
Tufo.
Okay.
Yep.
Allow them to link that.
Yeah, all the kind of specifications on account aggregation are listed on Open Banking Implementation Entity's website. I think it's openbanking.org, is it, or something like that? Anyway, but all the specifications are there in terms of kind of how we're pulling that data, and the regulation as well. The new regulation from the FCA, the AISP kind of license, the Account Information Service Provider license, is something that we're obviously kind of going for, and which we'll find out in January. So yeah, touch wood. I think everything should be fine on that front. But the kind of the process of linking all of these things it's all API driven. Mm-hmm. So that's what creates the seamless experience, which I guess is different to, I guess the nearest thing you could compare it to would be like a comparison site. That's what the key differentiator is, which is, if you've got time, you go and enter in all the details in a comparison site. But this is automated to as best as we can, and you don't have to download any other apps. You can just link these services from which are external third parties. You can just link them into the HSBC app, so you can pass very, very quickly between all of your different products and take advantage of all of the different services available.
So it's not just view everything in one place. It's actually be able to kind of like apply for new stuff.
Yeah, apply for new stuff, do currency exchange, deposit money in your Wealthify account, whatever it is. That's kind of where we're heading. Is everything should be easy. Everything should be seamless. You should let people know when they're using third-party software, but ultimately, if people should be able to take full advantage of the services that are available to them, and it should be easy enough so that those of us who aren't 100% financially savvy can still understand it, still understand the implications, and can take advantage and not be left behind. Mm-hmm. And that's by going through the bank, that is a very, very good way of making sure that you bring everyone along with this technology advancement and not leave some people behind.
I think it's also something to be said of financial literacy, to your point of, we're trying to create these journeys and help customers access the services that they need, or sometimes they don't even realize that they need.
Yeah, they don't even know exist.
Yeah, and for me personally, I'm awful. I will admit it now. I'm terrible with my personal finances, but like there are certain partners that I've come in contact with. I'm just like, where has this been my whole life? If I had this 5 years ago, everything would be so different. And I wonder how many people are out there thinking like, yeah, actually, I had no idea this existed. And once it's finally in their hands because we've introduced it to you, then
I think even the most basic features like that Bud has, one of the first things that we did was just a kind of like what's my actual available money, my net kind of balance, the credit card offset against my debit card balance or my current account balance. Like that is incredibly eye-opening for someone who hasn't seen those things, like who don't have a spreadsheet, who don't kind of do that often. That is a very eye-opening thing to just have there because it makes you think about your money differently. Yeah, I got a credit card and I spend on it probably more than I should. But when you see that aggregate balance, you're like, okay, right. This is how it gets out. This is how.
What's that minus sign? What does that mean?
And why is it red? What the hell does that mean? But that's kind of habit forming. That kind of small little nudge is a habit forming, way of just informing people who aren't as literate as other people, to kind of not put themselves in a position that they can't get out of. And I guess on a very, very simple functionality like that's incredibly useful.
Yeah. Because it's kind of like solving one of the biggest fintech challenges too, which is mass market exposure, mass market adoption.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big driving factors of why a lot of financial services companies kind of are on board with what we're planning here is because to act as a kind of a middle layer within the world of finance, which connects the distributors to the vendors in a way that if a bank wanted to go and partner with 70 partners, it's going to take them like 10 years just because of the due diligence and the added risk that comes onto the bank with the regulatory piece. The fact that we're regulated separately, the fact that we manage all of the integrations and the relationships and all of that harmonizing of all of those services, it means that when we partner with a bank, we can switch on these services so much quicker than if a bank was to do it themselves. And equally, that's great for a fintech who is regulated and has insurance and all of the things that they require for our due diligence to work with us. But that's great for them if they're trying to reach an audience which they're not currently engaged with.
Yeah. So you guys are like the poster child of open banking PSD2 and how transformative that can be.
Why, thank you.
So we touched before on kind of like the way that API integration happens on the back end. I mean, maybe for people maybe listening around the world who aren't intimately familiar with PSD2, like high level, broad brush, can you just explain like what's happening in Europe right now?
Do you want to go?
Okay.
Here we go. This is where both of us look at each other and go, who wants to tackle
this? So I guess I'll start and you can fill in gaps.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So PSD2 is this European-wide legislation, which was created after PSD1, in large part to create a more competitive environment, but also to put the data that customers generate back in their own hands.
I say that's a pretty fair overview.
Like overview, yeah. Good.
Yeah.
It I suppose it touches two key areas. One is pulling information out of their accounts and giving them the ability to kind of have that data processed in any other kind of licensed third party. So that's kind of the account aggregation side. And then the other side is on the payment side, which would be, I guess, the current journey for someone to make a payment would you go through a website, you enter your card details, and you make a card payment. But under PSD2, you could, that website that you're on, whether it's buying clothes or whatever, they could be authorized to do, you could give them authorization by logging in a different way to do a bank-to-bank exchange rather than kind of whipping out your payment details. They'd be able to kind of initiate a payment on your request, which I guess so. There's two kind of sides to PSD2, which kind of gives customers a little bit more control, but also a little bit more flexibility on how they want to do things with their money.
Yeah. So without getting into too much boring detail, they're kind of like in the process over in Brussels or wherever they do these things of finalizing the regulatory technical standards. So like how this is all going to work, but high level, API based, and that's what drives that OAuth connection that we were talking about before.
Yeah, on a high level. What's interesting is, a lot of European countries are looking to the UK because I guess from a regulatory piece, it's a very innovative landscape, but also the standards that are being set out here. When we were talking, I was talking to one of the people who's heavily involved in the open banking standards yesterday. These guys are really leading the pack in terms of, okay, these are the requirements, and these are the endpoints for those kind of digital handshakes, the APIs. This is how it all should work, and they're quite confident that, I'm not going to kind of commit to this, but they're quite confident that Europe could adopt these standards as a European-wide standard. Because currently, everyone's kind of trialing their own standard, but I think they seem relatively confident that people are looking at this standard and thinking that it's a very good solution, for what people are trying to achieve with PSD2 and open banking, which I guess is linked to PSD2. Confusingly, it is a recommendation from the Competition Markets Authority, which mandates certain banks in the UK to open up the account information for customers. The remit of that is extending as well to e-wallets, current credit card providers, and things. So more and more, we are seeing the kind of the spread of this type of regulation impacting finance businesses, and they'll ultimately lead to better experiences for customers. It's up to companies like ours, like other challengers in the market, to kind of really take advantage of that and push it to its best conclusion. But PSD2 and open banking is a step forward for customer choice, and it will lead to kind of a better better experience with money for real people.
No, it's pretty amazing that you basically got regulators across Europe saying, okay, banks, the way you used to do business is not going to work anymore. Yeah, now it's completely different. And now you have to run an open business model where in the past it's been like one of the most closed industries.
Yeah,
and it's ridiculously transformed. It's amazing.
Think of an industry where the industry is mandated to share the data with their competitors if their customers want them to. It just doesn't exist anywhere. And so it's a huge undertaking that that a lot of these kind of regulators and the actual implementers of these regulations are kind of doing. And I wouldn't want to be doing what they're doing, because it's a tough challenge. But yeah, the ambition is really quite something.
Yeah. I mean, if I were a bank, I would be furious, and I think this seems like, well, I mean, it is fundamentally very competitive, but it seems almost like anti-competitive in the sense that you have regulators stepping in and basically rewriting the rules for how an industry works. And I, of course, don't feel bad for incumbent banks, because they effectively brought this on themselves by dragging the world into a financial crisis, 2007 to whenever it happened to end in whatever country you're in, and at least in the instance of the UK, mis-selling all these products and taking advantage of financially illiterate customers. Well, regulator has kind of shown up and laid out the way that things are going to look going forward.
Yeah,
that's different.
It is. I mean, it's sometimes hard to sympathise, and I think some banks see it as a bit unfair. But I think other banks have really kind of looked at it and gone, okay, well, there's two ways to react to this. There's one, we can throw the toys out of the pram and be difficult, or we can look at it maybe counterintuitively to begin with and see it as an opportunity. And I think those banks, incumbent banks specifically, are the ones, who are going to do very well with this. I think it will be different, and it won't be the glory days of banking, probably not. But I think it will be a kind of a new revelation for other metrics that banks look at, like NPS, Net Promoter Scores. So how likely are you to recommend a service to your peers? That score is something that a lot of banks get judged on. And I know if you get really bad results, you get fined. And so this could be an opportunity for banks to judge themselves in different ways, how they're serving their customers, and still introduce, new kind of revenue streams into that model. I think the worst execution or the worst outcome for a bank when it comes to PSD2 is they lose the full relationship with their customer, because that's where 20% of their revenue is from, selling additional services or kind of providing new services to customers. If they lose that, then they can only really do, the revenue they can generate is the only revenue that comes from just having a lot of money, and doing kind of complex bank stuff in the background, which customers will never really see. But that only really equates to 5% ROE. Yeah. It's not a big revenue business, whereas the other side is. And I think that's what they're really worried about.
Yeah, well, I mean, not getting too technical about it, but I
feel like we could get quite technical.
I'm sure we could get way too technical. But okay, so you mentioned ROE, like basically since 2010, 11, i.e., once banks kind of started to rebound from the the very deepest bottoms of post financial crisis, ROEs are like mid single digits, and that's true like in the UK, in Europe, in the US, whereas prior to the financial crisis it was mid teens. So I mean that's hugely lower, but it's also, I think, structurally lower, and it's because of things like increased capital requirements that regulators put on banks, increased costs of regulation. So, okay, if you're a bank, you're sitting there thinking, I don't want regulators to change the way I do business, but I now know that steady state ROE is mid-single digits. Well, you know what? That's not very interesting to anyone in capital markets who's supporting your business, exactly, to your existing shareholders. So, you know what? Something has to change. And I think we can probably fairly say that an entrenched industry like banking isn't going to change itself. Yep. So the regulators are potentially doing a huge favor for banking, because you start generating new fee revenues via things like selling third-party products, integrating with new people. I think McKinsey expects there to be something like 8% ROE upside as a result of that. So you're back to mid-teens ROEs. Banks are better off by doing this if they embrace it and if they do it right.
That's what we believe. Yeah, definitely. And if we, if we can help along the way, which we believe we can, then absolutely we'll be there. I think when you look at the numbers that keep banks up at night, it's the cost of distribution, high, about 45% of all their costs. The revenue earned by capital markets, not very good, and the revenue earned by selling, very good but under threat. I think those are the kind of the only numbers really I think that matter. I mean, there will definitely be more, and I've simplified that way too much. But yeah, I think the banks that really embrace it could look to save money and also kind of add to those other revenue pools.
But listen, okay, we're talking about the banks a lot and like what's good and bad for the banks, but banks exist to serve their customers, right? And for me, it's quite simple. Like, if you are saying that you are the most customer-centric bank in the world or in whatever country you operate in Europe, and you do not see this as an opportunity, then that is cognitive dissonance right there. Something is not adding up. So at the end of the day, this is going to help you serve your customers better. And full stop.
You heard it here first.
Swinging in. Drop the mic.
Swinging in.
Mic drop.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I want to drop these lovely mics.
Well, I mean, I suppose that's as good a point as any to end on. Love what you guys are doing and wish you all the best. We'll be certainly cheering from where I sit.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, very excited to see where you go with Civilized Bank. But
appreciate it.
Yeah. And give us a call.
Definitely. So, Jamie and Nina, what's the best way for people to find out more about Bud and connect with you directly?
So yeah, just head to thisisbud.com and you can find out some more information there. You can tweet at both of us.
Yes, we are avid tweeters.
Yeah, I'm at JC the Original.
And I'm at Nina Mohanty on Twitter.
Yeah, if you want to kind of, find out more about what Bud does, if you want to, talk to us, if you're a fintech company who's looking to kind of get distribution or understand our model, just tweet us. We'll get back to you. And if you, if you're a bank, give us a call. If any of this made sense, if any of this made sense to you, or if some of it didn't, I guess, just get in touch. We're happy to answer any questions.
All right. Jamie and Nina, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into Rebank. If you liked today's show, reach out. Follow us on Twitter at Rebank Podcast and join the conversation. For more on banking, fintech, and the future, check out our regular content at www.bankingthefuture.com.